cells in Mombasa for that reason.
All right. Also, let's talk about security right now in the city. How can you describe it right now?
Yes, it has been beefed up since yesterday. And police officers also promised that the celebrations, other celebrations, will be celebrated in a peaceful and a very secure atmosphere. We've seen that happening. Yesterday, there are also police operations. Just to take you a little bit, last month there was intelligence that government facilities were under threat of a possible terror attack, and several general service police units were deployed to guard the crucial government facilities. So security in general has been beefed up in Mombasa, and they're saying that they're not letting anything for chance. For instance, just next to our offices is the Kenya News Agency, which is a government facility, and it has always been guarded by a general service unit. Not even individuals are allowed to park their vehicles, as it has been the case every year. That one just tells you how security officers are taking matters to do with the security very seriously here in Mombasa.
All right. Finally, of course, there are celebrations going on in the city, just like the rest of Kenya, as Muslims mark Eid ul-Adha. Talk to us about, how is the situation there? Did yesterday's foiled terror attack really have an impact on the celebrations there today?
Not really. There's no any major impact that has been noted in today's celebration as far as yesterday's incident. What has happened that the foil attack has attracted a lot of condemnation from the religious leaders and political leaders who attended the Eid al-Adha celebrations today. I was at Ronald Ngala Primary School where the celebrations were being held, led by Chief Kadi Sheikh Mufdar. And what they're trying to say is that they're preaching peace, and they're telling Muslim faithfuls to work hand in hand with security officers just to divulge very critical information that they could be at their disposal, but police do not know about these people, because at the end of the day, these people live amongst us and we know some of them. The only problem is that how do we relate with the police? How do we relay this information to the police without being victimized and without also exposing yourself to attack from these people? So that is also another critical area for members of the public.
All right. Thank you very much, John Juma, for that. Of course, he's going to be updating us blow by blow of what exactly is happening on the ground, even as police appeal to members of the public to give as much information as they can in regards to that false terror attack yesterday in Mombasa. All right. So now we want to continue with this conversation. And joining me in studio right now is Byron Adera, who is a security analyst. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Betty.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on this attack. Now, this attack, at a police station is just actually the second. Just a few months back, we had the one in Kapenguria. What is your feeling about this?
Oh, yeah. Remember, the Kapenguria attack went down on the 14th of July.
Right.
And as we said then, the facts were glaringly clear. Like, this attack was symptomatic to what could be happening across the board. Mm-hmm. And so you couldn't have a look at this in isolation. What I did hold, strongly was the view that if we're not proactive in the way we view the security, consideration around the installations, especially those of, civilian law enforcement,
right,
side by side with, continued appraisal in tune with the prevailing threats, then we may be found, flat-footed, especially when in the face of the dynamics that we see in the threat landscape today. And
talking about, being caught flat-footed, that's probably what happened yesterday. But also from where you sit, is it, could you have expected more after, what happened in Kapenguria? Would it have been, the right decision to have police installations, like a police station, really guarded more than, what we've been seeing previously?
Absolutely, yes. if you ever look at all those points with the considerations that should be an integral part of ongoing appraisal, and first of all, with the way we do man security installations, so talk police post, police stations, the highest of which you would think about in terms of Mombasa Central Police Station, lacking requisite access control measures to prevent threats like this from happening and or prevent their effects from being, as large scale as it was, then we may be failing ourselves. So the failure of understanding failure should be priority, in the sense that lessons can be learned from what's been happening in the past.
Right.
We're thinking, Kapenguria, we're thinking all the way back to Lamu and the other police stations that have been attacked before. If we could draw strength from those lessons, then we'd be a lot better today and maybe in future. But it's saddening that, things like that could happen without, notice.
All right. Let's talk about, specifically what happened in Mombasa. And, at the end of the day, the terror suspects were killed.
Yes.
What can you say about the response, of the police then, how they were able, to kill the terror suspects before really they could do much?
I may not be as impressed about the response as I would be about what could be done to prevent this from happening.
Okay.
Or what would have been done to have seen or figured out that a threat like this could actually be feasible. The fact that a response was actually mounted in the face of people or the agents of terror that basically had a petrol bomb or maybe a knife that they used against a police officer is more worrying to me than what actually happened afterwards. And this is because if you ever look critically at the screening measures, what we call the evaluation of threats and validation of the same, then that must have been missed, and to a big extent. And I'll throw this not just to Central, but around to have a look at what the posturing in terms of police stations are, where you'd visit and you don't have a feeling that this is a high security installation where much as the civilian law enforcement, so they'd welcome everybody to Mishikwawote, but we're thinking you should have the safety in their protection, and it's not just in people looking like they're doing it, but actually doing what should be giving you that confidence that not a bad guy would basically slip through the access controls, get to an OB place, possibly throw an argument that they lost a phone. And you know the story that was reported, the way that information was actually processed must have led to getting the other ladies or the women that accompanied the first one that approached the OB desk to do their thing without anybody watching them. So that's more worrying to me in terms of lack of situational awareness on the part of the police guys that were there. And secondly, in the way that information was actually managed in a way that would have even to that extent neutralized that threat before it escalated.
Okay, but I'd also want to hear your thoughts about what would really give such people like the women really guts to go into a police station. Just the fact that it's a police station, there's some sort of fear. But what would give this kind of people that confidence to actually go in there, with knives and a petrol bomb, so confident that they can actually do whatever they wanted to do?
Knowledge dispels fear. And for such level of confidence, you go to actually be thinking there's absolute happiness in, we know what's going to happen. We got the information as to how things are run, and how business is run here. So that gives you, first of all, some confidence. It's common knowledge. If you have confidence, then it begets some level of knowledge and awareness. And obviously, happiness in success, so guaranteed success. If we'd had attitudes and or feelings that are reinforced by some successes in the past, then someone might be able to try the same the following day or in future. If there's a concerted effort to prevent the same from happening, which means we're talking real deterrence factors, where you're thinking, I wouldn't want to attempt going through that gate because someone with a very big gun is going to shoot me to, that would discourage you.
Okay.
But if those maybe, and this is the way it goes, there's a level of intelligence that invested by anybody that wants to do something, even if it just means you're walking up the street or down some street and want to pick a phone off someone. There's not so much that I would want to think about in terms of a backlash, right? So that level of confidence. And these are not people that are maybe as normal as me and you. They have a level of indoctrination, they have a level of radicalization, and all these other things coming together to confluence to make a human being who's ready to die in the first place.
All right, let's talk about prevention, because it's something that you've really talked about. Most of our police stations have really remained the same since they were actually built. Nothing really has been done. This one, there's really no protection of, security, whatever perimeter wall around such institutions or installations like the police stations. But moving forward, what is that thing that needs to be done, so that these places, which are actually supposed to be, as safe as possible, are actually it?
Absolutely right. If we all know, even truth is mortal. What was absolutely true yesterday is a myth today. Conventional wisdom passes into a fad tomorrow. And this could be a question of us missing out on the real picture, the reality as it is today. And so being wedded to the past and to what worked yesterday, or what worked before, the pre-colonial duration, where the threats were markedly different from what they are today. It keeps us off step with what's happening today. So as you rightly said, security considerations that surround the installations, like I say, are probably providing yesterday's answers to today's problems. Could it be a case of false self-image, where we misinterpret our own competencies and capabilities in light of what's happening today? Could it be that we rock up and probably occupy, so in terms of occupancy, a building that was probably rented off someone because we lack in the wherewithal to have and or modify the existing ones, or have ones that are actually matching the threats as they are today. And this is driven by other factors other than security considerations, where, as I said, the operational requirement study should be informed by a diagnostically done threat assessment first of all, and then bail measures. Form follows function. You don't want to think about walking through a station that has a road, a main access control that opens up to it just barely a meter from the road, where if even an opportunistic thug would lob a grenade in and things like that. Those are considerations that are actually real. And if we also battling with bad pictures of reality reinforced by delusional attitudes among the leadership and possibly poor leadership skills to change that wrong picture of the reality, we end up operating a very bad triangle, and continue to reel in very bad inertia.
All right, let's talk about funding, because security is one of the biggest funded departments in the country. Where does this money go to? Because you still have police stations that still do not have basic equipment. Even we still have records which are being made on papers, and instead of having computerized systems. And that's even just the basic. Even looking at some of the police stations, they are in deplorable conditions. So as much as fine, we are investing in equipment, isn't there money that can go into improving some of these installations?
I think that is debatable, and I'd wish to have a modern Gucci security machinery. But my optimism is that what we have currently could actually be made into what is matching to the threats that we are actually dealing with today. For someone to rock up with a knife, that for sure didn't require a state-of-the-art computers. But if we deal with threats as they are side by side with what is presented in terms of how they combated, I'd wish to say the optimism is there in terms of the need to invest. But I don't really think this is being picked up adequately, especially in light of what we know, corruption. This might not actually be feeding the right picture that they are all intended to serve. If you have a fence that is built halfway and part of that fence is impounded material, wares, motorbikes, cars, and stuff like that. It doesn't need rocket scientists to know that that is actually a compromise, because, I mean, if they provide footholds, there's no need to veil the fence that is not going to be, serving the purpose.
Okay.
For me, that is really cosmetic and possibly doesn't serve the purpose. Some of those things, as I say, could actually be tweaked to serve in their current presentation what should actually be done.
All right.
But I think there's a substantial lack of centeredness
All right.
in the way the people factor itself.
Okay, you've mentioned
should
something.
be geared to work towards achieving those goals.
You mentioned something to do with, a cosmetic approach, to security. Last week, President Uhuru Kenyatta launched a counterterrorism strategy.
Yes.
I mean, this is not the first time that you're hearing of something like that being launched.
Yeah.
Do this, strategies really make sense, on the ground, or is it just a cosmetic way to look at, solving this issue?
I'd like to say some of the strategies that I've heard of and that I'm aware of are really ambitious, actually really well intended. But we all know here that intentions without action is, it's possibly worse than useless. If they do not get operationalized with the correct commitment on the part of those that are meant to basically take the, cut off the sails and move ashore, then they don't just go anywhere. If we have policies like, let's say, the Nyumba Kumi initiative,
Right.
and me and you haven't seen a Nyumba Kumi guy maybe rock up to make sure things are... So the how in terms of the strategy, if we look at the strategy in the grand scheme of things, the who, what, how. The how, to me, is the most important. The how it's going to be done. Who does it could be found. What's being done could be actually figured out. But the how it's done is really, really important. So we have a lot of strategies that are really well intended.